Hello, everyone, and welcome to Horrornightoasis, a radio show where we discuss all the latest movies and news for the world of horror. Joining me tonight, as always, is my co-host Ian. Ian, are you there?
Slightly.
Yeah, we're kind of getting these late starts, but that's what happens when you have a little miniature version of yourself, right?
Oh yeah.
But nonetheless, we are here to finish up our Monsters Day marathon. A little bit early, but we're gonna finish this up. And we got one that I'm actually looking forward to because this is one we are doing a special Boneyard review for this Monsters Day choice. And this one came out of nowhere, honestly, because um, we had, again, we had a list we made at the beginning of the month. And after last week's episode, this just randomly showed up on Tubi. And it's also on Amazon. But the thing is, this film has been basically out of print and hard to come by since its initial release in 2008. And as I normally do, I always like to give some background on these titles and just like my run in or how I came to know the title with some of these because, again, there's not a lot of information out there. And again, there's not that much out on here now. And this is like the same way where it was with Moose the movie, like it's 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 available, but you have to go. It's still relatively unknown. You have to go through certain means to get to it, and it's available, but it's still unknown. This one, um, for the longest time, again, it was just I've only seen two actual copies on eBay. Uh, One of two I own. Uh, the first time I came across this was a listing. It was a choose your own DVD listing, basically. And in the image that they used, there was this film called Hell's Tomb. And I was like, what the hell's Hell's Tomb, basically? And I'm trying to look into it, and I can't find, there's the IMDb page, there's, a few things here and there, but there's not that much information on it. And so I just kept searching occasionally. I messaged the seller like, "Hey, is this one still there? What can you give me some information on it?" And again, I didn't get much back from the seller. And as I normally do, I just waited. And every so often, I put it in my save searches. And one day I just checked it, and there was a listing for $20, brand new. And as you can see, it's right there on the screen. I had to use as the poster. But yeah, this was only released in a few places. And again, I got it, and I've been setting on this one for a while because, again, I've wanted to do this for a Boneyard because at the time when I got it, there wasn't anything. It wasn't on Tubi, it wasn't on Amazon Prime. It just literally just last week showed up. So this one has been just in the ether. And honestly, I'm kind of glad because it is just one of those where it's like, it's just been circulating, just like nothing. And like, I love seeing stuff like this that's just been non-existent since 2008. And it wasn't available. Again, we'll get into the certain releases, but this particular version was only released in Canada. And if you want, Ian, you can go to the next slide that I created. And basically, there's no UPC code on this. So you had to get this directly from the director, Neil Wentworth himself, I'm assuming, because there's no way to buy it, basically. So this was, I'm assuming, an indie release in 2008. Now, it's also released so long later in 2009 in Germany as Predator's Hell's Tomb. So sort of similar, but they changed it up. So again, there's a lot of confusion here, like released only in Canada, released in Germany. And again, they say similar covers. So again, still not released in America. And then you get to Japan, and it's called Tomb Soldier. how are you supposed to know this? Besides, of course, seeing the director's name on it, but that does not. Anyway, I mean, it's Japan. They always throw stuff in there, like Army of Darkness is Ghost Guts 3, um, where they just throw anything on there. It's just to try to get, interest and a buck in there. But yeah, like if you wanted to find this in Japan, you wouldn't even know because you wouldn't know what to look for. And like Tomb Soldier, I mean, it's far off from what the film actually is, even though because there's no tombs, and there's soldiers. I will give them that, but there's no tombs. Even though it's called Hell's Tomb, but still, nonetheless. But yeah, like trying to find this in and of itself is a task because it's only released in Canada, but you could probably only got it by the director or someone involved with the film. But I'm assuming the director Neil. It was only released in Germany as Predator's Hell's Tomb, which again, who's going to know this? And then, of course, Tomb Soldier in Japan. So it wasn't released anywhere else. Not in America, not in Australia, not in Britain, nowhere over there. So trying to, again, locate the movie is a challenge in and of itself. So that's sort of the background on this Boneyard. Again, I'm happy to have a physical copy of it. Don't get me wrong. But I'm glad it's on Tubi because, like, that's the thing. Like, there was nothing on this film since 2008. Like no anything, and then just randomly it's on Tubi. So I'm assuming the director or someone involved had to go through the process and the litigate the paperwork to get it on Tubi, and I'm happy for that because again, like some of these films that are such as, which we'll eventually get into here with Hell's Tomb, like it was technically lost, which again, like I said, it's like Moose where it's like a potential boneyard. Well, it was a boneyard. Now it's on Tubi and Amazon. So again, it's readily available now where it wasn't a week ago, and it's always interesting to see that, because, you go through here and you're like trying to find and locate, these obscure releases. And again, we discuss a lot of obscure releases, but like they don't really get too much traction. And it's always great to see, again, if the movie's good or bad, nonetheless, it's there for the viewing audience. And I'm kind of glad that somehow they it's finally time to put it on Tubi, and or go through the means to get it available for people to watch. And again, like it was just going to be one of those, again, random boneyards that we do occasionally, sometime down the line. And just like when this showed up on Tubi, I was like, oh shit, Ian can watch this and we can finally review it.
Right.
And I was so glad where I had to change the plans for our initial review into this one because I've been wanting to watch this one and review it since I found it. And just seeing it on Tubi, just like beeline that and just put the urgency under my ass. We're like, yeah, we're doing this for our finale of Monsters Day. But yeah, like Ian, what's your take on all the background of these releases? I mean, it's always interesting to get like some of the releases. Like there's one called The Watermen, and like again, it's another one that's like unavailable in America, but it was released in Japan, as The Watermen, and it's basically sort of like a Texas Chainsaw Massacre cross wrong turn on a boat, ocean liner. But like again, like the only release available statewide was through a review copy from the director, which I've randomly found again, like through my immense search on eBay. Like it's just like some of these films, again, they're lost for a long time, and like again, some directors just like come and go. They don't want to put it out there, But like this one, like I'm so glad. Again, like I said, good or bad, I'm just happy that they're like taking the time, like, oh yeah, that movie I directed back, 17 years now. Let's put it out there for other people to see it finally, instead of just being relegated to just 3 certain countries, Canada, Japan, and Germany. So now it's like, again, readily available for those interested to watch it. And plus our review hopefully will get it more traction to get more eyes on it, because not that many people know about it. And again, with all the title changes and releases, I mean, it's definitely it's still quote unquote a boneyard, so your thoughts again, and then we'll get into the review.
Yeah, no, even when you sent me the Japan cover, I was like, wait, is this from the same movie? Like, it's kind of, I want to know, like, why they had to change it, or if they just decided to themselves, or if it was like, like the country didn't want to, put it out there until they changed the name a little bit or something. I would like to know, like, the backstory of that.
Yeah,
Like,
and plus you don't know if like the director had any say in it as well. It's probably just like the distribution company that just like put it out as this. Like you never know. Like they get the rights and it's just to release it, and then they do what they will with it.
no, exactly. I just was like, because my first thought was Tomb Raider, Tomb Soldier, Tomb Raider, because it's almost identical to that one of the posters. But I don't know. I just think would make a very interesting story if we could talk to the person, like themselves. If they could ever come onto the show, that would be fantastic. Because I would like to know, like, what happened and why it was done like that.
What? And especially around this time in 2008, like everything was getting picked up, and released. I mean, this is like, honestly, before we get into the review, it's like a Sci-Fi Channel movie, around that time period, where like they're having like SS Doom Trooper and Minotaur and just all these like House of Bones came later, but like just around that time frame, the Manticore, just like these weird random, Sci-Fi Channel monster movie premieres on Saturdays, and like this fits that perfectly, but like it never got picked up by distribution in America for some reason. And again, I don't know the justification for it. And again, like it was only available like this version on screen. Again, it wasn't available to buy because there's no UPC, so you had to get it straight from the director or someone involved, I'm assuming. But nonetheless, I think we need to get into this film, Ian, and we're going to be discussing, of course, Hell's Tomb. And Hell's Tomb, as I said, is sort of a Sci-Fi Channel Saturday-esque monster movie that you would see premiered on like 9 o'clock, 8 o'clock time slot on Saturdays. They have all that jazz leading up to it. But Hell's Tomb, we are first introduced to a backstory 11,000 years prior, where we're introduced to our monster in the film. And our monster, his name is Hadian, and he is chasing these shaman type characters with their long robes and everything. And basically, we're not going to get too spoiler heavy early on. We'll do that a little bit later. He's chasing them, and they're trying to. There's sort of like a mystery about them because, like, they're wearing the cloaks, the hoods, all black. But they have, like, again, monster creature type hands, but they're like mystical. 11,000 years prior, and they do a spell that traps Hadian, and he's basically stuck there until present day, where we're introduced to a handful of characters. I'm not going to really get into everyone, but basically we're introduced to Max, who is this archaeologist, and it kind of runs in the family, whereas him and his sister Morgan, and basically their parents died prior, years earlier, and so they kind of just took up the mantle, in following in their parents' footsteps of doing this archaeology, this dig to find all this material that they've come across. They found parts in India, and they're in this certain part of the world. Again, it doesn't really say where they're at, but they're out in the woods, forest area, and they come across this bone box, which I should have got a shot of the bone box, but nonetheless, they get there and they find like this key, and like everything's like in bone. So like the key's bone, it's like a jaw with some teeth on it as the key to unlock the bone box. But they get there, Brody is like delivering. He's like a hired man, to come and deliver stuff to Max during this expedition. And basically, he's calling, Max is calling his sister Morgan, like, hey, we found stuff, there's more scrolls, there's all this stuff. We found the box. And Morgan's, that's kind of the last that we hear of Max for a while. And then we're introduced to Evelyn, who is running the site and the dig. And basically they haven't heard from Max. And so Evelyn wants Morgan to go in search of her brother Max, along with her hired gun Dalton and her son Kai, as well as Dalton's group of soldiers. And so there's a little bit of a group there, and then Brody comes in as the guide to lead them back to where Max's dig site is located at. And so they go there and they find, again, a bunch of corpses and strung up body parts, bones hanging in trees, and they eventually come across Hadean, the creature of the movie, and he starts attacking them, and that sets up the gist of the remainder of the movie, where I thought it was actually a pretty solid little movie. Like I said, it's very much a comfort movie. Like I said with Mortal Game last week, this one more so, where it's just it keeps a solid pace from beginning to end, always keeps things moving. The characters are more intertwined than they were in Mortal Game, and the story and the lore was better built as it was in besides Mortal Game, where like you didn't even get like much of the reason for the character, the monsters in Mortal Game. So there's definitely more of a lore and an ancient history. And of course, the look of Hadean was good. Some of the effects were good. Again, all practical. And again, it just turned out to be, again, like way better than I anticipated it to be. And it was just like exactly what I kind of wanted out of it. Just a fun creature feature and an interesting looking monster. And it delivered that. The look of Hadean was awesome for its low budget. It definitely, like, again, they didn't compared this to Mortal Game. I mean, Mortal Game was sort of, again, you had your Predator type S creature look. This one is like, it's definitely different, even though it kind of has like the same structure as like a Bone Eater or Bone Snatcher from around that same time period, a little bit earlier, 2003, 2004 era. But again, it's just that Sci-Fi Channel anesthetic, where I'm just like, again, those type of films, this would have been perfect for that Sci-Fi Channel premiere on Saturday. So they just go through, and plus, again, the look of Hadean is just like, he has the bones, as you can see, hands, the skull face. He has like bones sticking out, horns sticking out of his the top of his shaman sort of Indian-esque robe. And then he has these bones that's sticking out of his spine, sort of like a stegosaurus plate, but it's like bones and protruding out of his back. And he's just, just like hunched over, and just going through there, just like slicing people up with his sharp, his claws. And it just looks cool. And like, it's all practical. Like the mouth opens up and it's like, and the thing they do is it's like, most of it's in daylight. So you really have to have faith in your creature design to shoot it in daylight.
Yeah.
Whereas, in Mortal Game, you could see some of the fabric in the crotch area and the leg area sort of fold, whereas like trying to move and stuff. And this one, like they did a good job with that creature design, and it and to show it in broad daylight as they did, it really took balls. Like not shoot it at night to hide its faults. Like no, like we have a cool monster, we're going to use it.
Yeah.
And I thought it worked. And basically, like the remainder of the movie is just them getting chased by Hadean, them going, again, like common stuff, them bickering, trying to survive. But it's just a decently fun movie. It's just like it keeps the pace going. There's always something new. Again, it's not new, but like again in the story, like keeping the plot forward, like moving everything moving. And like again, the Max comes back into play a little bit later, and then the bone box and like the spells and the scroll and the bone the artifacts being used and trying to come up with everything. And then like again, it just turned out to be really fun. I mean, there might have been like again some of the dialogue or the delivery is just like kind of wooden, where it's a low budget, but I'm not gonna fault it for that. I mean, trust me, we watched Werebeard and that was way worse. So like the line delivery is like definitely it's a little wooden here and there, but again, I'm not gonna fault that too bad, because like it still kept a solid pace throughout. And like the creature effects, like they use like some of the point of view of the monster, and it's red. And like they introduce aspects of the creature too that was interesting, where like he's unable to see, at certain points, like you have to stay still, like he can't see you, and you have to peripheral vision and everything like that. So like they introduce still a lot of things as the film progresses with Hadean, and I like that aspect of it. I always like when you introduce something more. But yeah, like I really had fun with this. And it's just like it flowed, like you're going through there, and like I paused it like maybe twice. Like I was like 45 minutes in, like holy crap, this is almost over. And then I just like kept it going, and then like I paused it
Yeah.
again, like oh man, there's only 10 minutes left, because I had to go to the bathroom. But like it's just like you're really invested, with the story and just where everything's going. And like yeah, it's a average monster movie, which films which I've discussed already. But still, like for what it is, and for like so long for this to be like hidden from people, like it's kind of a shame, because it's still, it's a fun little monster movie. But Ian, I'll give your thoughts, and then we'll go back and forth.
All right. No, yeah. This movie wasn't as I was. We always start off strong, or and usually the last movie is the weakest movie. But no, this was pretty fun. I really enjoyed the creatures design. I thought it looked pretty nice, especially for especially like you can tell like this was a very low budget film. So I always like to see when I see like a really good creature and really well done executed creature. And this actually was making me think of last week, because I was like trying to think of like something felt like it was missing from that movie. And I felt like it just dawned on me, like, oh, backstory. Like, what are these? And so I like when movies take the time to not like to give us a reason for why they're doing what they're doing, or why they're there. I don't want to be spoon fed every single detail. Like mystery is still fun, but like, I think that this movie handled that pretty well. And it's also kind of funny that, this movie just fell into our laps so quickly, considering, like the last two movies, I feel like are a good parallel with each other.
Yeah.
So, like, I felt like I was like, that's pretty fun that's these two movies are about, killer monsters, like soldiers for hire, that kind of thing, and how you can like see how way different like their storytelling was. But I think this movie did a good job. It was definitely fun. It wasn't like super slow. There was a couple of parts that dragged on a little bit, I thought, but like nothing like major, just kind of like had a slow moment and not like a useless slow moment either.
Yeah, not
Like,
like last week where they're just walking through the woods. Like there's always like a conversation or something happening where it's like always intriguing for like progressing
yeah,
progressing the story. Whereas like Mortal Game was like none of that.
yeah. Mortal Game had too much like of nothing. Like, I wish they would have done something to bring up like, oh, we had people. They even showed that there was other people that could have been there, and they could have gotten together and like piece together like what these creatures are, and like give us something to bite into in the slow moments, because you have to slow your movie down eventually, just so you're not running through the whole thing too fast, and giving us like information, giving us like character development or something. And that's what Mortal Game really lacked. I felt like
It was too vague.
yeah, it was too vague. There was too much of nothing, and then too much of everything without any like something like any kind of substance
Yeah.
behind it. And this movie, I felt like they took their time to actually tell the story instead of just trying to show something cool.
Yeah, like they gave you they opened up with the backstory of the monster. And then like they
Yeah.
pieced it together through, as the story progressed. Like they kept adding more pieces of what the monster is, not exactly giving you too much to, just enough. Um, and always just like keeping it interesting, like, oh, now he can't see, he has this red vision and like he's doing all this stuff and like exactly what his reasoning for everything is like this bone box where he's able to do stuff. And then again, they throw another little curve in there a little bit later on where it's another intriguing aspect of the story of what eventually they want to do with certain aspects, which I don't want to give away. But like they're still like adding more layers to the story.
Yeah.
Even when you think it's over, like there's another turn, and they just kept at it. And like again, some of the effects were good. There was again like I like the characters were decent enough. The the other soldiers going after them through trampling through the woods and like facing off against the creature, like the one like tried to attack him and then like he gets his intestines pulled out and then the one girl gets her arm ripped off, well technically chopped off by his hand, but again that's a cool aspect too, whereas like his talons and his fingers are so sharp it just cuts your arms off.
Yeah.
um and like he's going around throwing bones at people too. So he's like a trick shot where he's just like he throws parts of himself at you as well. So it's like there's always this again ever changing new aspect of Hadian, which was always cool to see. Like they're trying to trap him and he's like, I've been in this situation before. I'm gonna outsmart you.
Right.
And it was just like the cool, interesting, intriguing little moments. And like the director, like Neil, like he had a good vision. Like I see the vision, and like I think he did a good enough job with it. And again, just to see like all the work and dedication, and just like it's just been relegated and lost since 2008. And that's as we mentioned earlier at the beginning of the show. You just hate to see that, like so much work. It's like that's like when if once upon a time, one last stop in a violent town comes up somewhere, like it's just so much work and dedication and heart went into that film just to be gone, poof, vanish. Like we're still the only ones that ever talk about that film. But like this one's like, again, since like 2008, this has been only in Canada, only in Germany, only in Japan. Again, hard to find still in those relative relative countries. And finally, it's available on Tubi and Prime if you wanted to pay for it. But like again, like I'm happy that this just like came across, because as soon as I saw like Hell's Tomb, wait a second, I know that, and then like yeah, that's it. It's like I was so excited. And again, it just, like I said, it's a comfort movie. It's just like that, like I mentioned last week with Mortal Game. I like that type of film where like soldiers or people are in the woods fighting off something. And like again, this is like a good pairing with Devil's Tomb from 2009 with Cuba Gooding Jr. Is the exact same sort of setup where like again, Cuba Gooding Jr. is going to the tombs and they find like this devil monster that's like, well, it's not devil monster, it's like a devil person, but like he gets unthawed and he starts attacking all the group. It's just like a comfort movie where it's just like I like that kind of stuff. Like one here recently was War Hunt with Mickey Rourke, where they fight witches instead. But it's just like again, a group of people going to some place fighting a menace, and so like it's a comfort movie. I just have fun with it. Season of the Witch with Nicolas Cage is like that. But then again, I'm going on my tangents, naming shit. But yeah, I had fun with it. And if you want to, Ian, we can go into spoilers and let's show off this buddy. Let's show off Hayden. There he is. But yeah, he has the horn sticking out, his cloak, all the bones around him, and he's just like he's a cool looking. He just has an aura about him, and like even throughout the movie, there's just like this presence, which again, Mortal Game didn't have that really.
Yeah.
And like this one, he's just like
Definitely,
he's menacing in a sense, even though he does kind of look a little, on the. I'm not gonna say he's cheap, but again, just that look, just that ancient sort of look to him. They did a good job. Like he has the bones and like his robe and everything is like covered in bones. He has sort of the again the bones sticking out of his back where he's hunched over, and just like he's an he's a cool looking creation, monster, creature, and what he does throughout is cool, and he just has a presence about him. Again, there was another picture I had where it like showed him all, but I don't want to give everything away. I just want to give just the look at an angle, the side view of him, so you can get a better idea of what we're talking about here with this creature, with Hadian. But yeah, he's cool, man. But yeah, I liked the movie. I had fun with it. And again, it's just I'm always gonna nitpick this, but just you have a fun movie like this, just to be lost for 17 years, and then just randomly show up on Tubi, and it's just like that's bewildering to me, just bewildering. And I just like I can get over that, and like I'm glad whoever has the rights, or if it's the director himself or whoever's involved, finally put pen to paper and got it up there on streaming for those interested to watch. Like go give it a shot.
Yeah, definitely give this movie a shot. I mean, like who doesn't love a decent low budget horror film, and the characters are actually pretty compelling. I felt like I really, comparing this movie to Mortal Game, I felt more for the characters. Like they do take the time to flesh out the characters themselves, and like,
and they went out there and they gave them, as soon as the film started, like name, this is this is this. We always have that issue when like they don't give you names and you have to, they're superfluous, like, oh, we don't care, why should you, basically. And like I like that they went out there and like even the characters that died early on, they gave them names. Like we care enough to give the characters names in conversations leading up before their deaths, even though they don't say anything or do anything, they're just there. But we gave them names. That shows dedication that they care about the movie. And They
Yeah.
did a good brother sister relationship and like their backstory with their parents and everything, and um, all the soldiers, they kind of quit back and forth, and um, there's some sort of turmoil in the group, and some stuff that happens later on, and it's just like it works. Like they're giving everyone depth and character for a film that honestly, you most films don't have. Again, as we mentioned, Mortal Game, no reason anything except for money, and the reason they're on the island basically to hunt stuff, and like seeing again, it's a total 180 of everything that we like some of these reviews they just pop up like this where like one film and then the next film is like the total opposite of it, and just like to see this where like everything is like to the exact precise moment of like where they wanted to go with the vision of the film, and
Yeah.
just see like something that's just like we're just going to do a Predator knockoff, and it's just like we're not even going to worry about that much of a story, or reasoning for anything, or reasons for the characters besides money, no back and forth character development, no lore or reasons why the creatures are on this specific island. You don't need it for like the creatures. I mean, honestly, less is more sometimes. Of course, what they did in Predator, but like there has to be something for like why here, in Mortal Game. And this one, like they gave a reason, like this is where the bone box was, and like now everything comes to happen where like they unleash Hadian and it's in this forest, and it makes sense, and everything is again is just down to the precise moment of just like the film works, as a fun little creature feature monster movie with some good gore, some practical effects, this arm dismemberment, disemboweling, and just like again a cool monster, and that's what you want sometimes. It's just like an interesting looking monster, and like honestly, look at that thing. That's kick ass how they did that
Yeah.
on the low budget. Like some of these again, like we said, like some of these monsters we do for these marathons just don't look good. Look at Werebeard. It was just like it did not look
I don't
good.
want to.
Yeah, I know. Those tamarin monkeys beard suits, just like that did not look good, the modified Bigfoot suits. But like this one, like there was so much input and thought on what they wanted this ancient creature to be. And like it just has this aura where it's just like an imposing figure. And like it just like towers over them, and like they're trying, and it just wants all it wants is this box. Again, you don't get much reasoning why it wants the box, but of course, like to set forth some kind of threat, to take over stuff, and
Yeah.
every usual stuff like that. But little hints in there, and where it eventually leads to is just like it's cool. And again, I had fun with it. But Ian, any final thoughts, and then we'll go into our rankings.
I mean, I did appreciate this film's dedication to itself. Um, and I'm glad that this movie fell into our laps the way it did, especially like Mortal Games. Following this being a follow up to Mortal Game, I feel like, gives you more perspective on like Mortal Games faults.
Yeah,
Because like it's like, oh, okay, like this is everything that was missing from that movie. And I really love how, like I said, I really like that they dedicated themselves to the movie, and that they did like took the time to get us everything that we got. It's a shame this movie got tossed to the side like it did, because I feel like, how it ended, definitely felt like there could have been more to this movie. I do like that it is open-ended for interpretation, but like I kind of would like to see a sequel.
Yeah.
So
No, but I'm right there with you. Like with, of course, like bookending this with Mortal Game. It's like how we did with our um, um, Three Blind Mice, Mary Had a Little Lamb, and Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey 2. Where like each film, like it had its faults, and then Blood and Honey 2 did like those two films previous better. You know, it's just
yeah,
like it's like the same thing. You just see like
it's so
everything that's trying
weird.
to do in those films, and then Blood and Honey 2 comes along and does the exact same plot, both of those films better. But yeah, like again, I can just go on about just the history of this and just like why it took so long. 17 years and nothing, and it just randomly pops up. But I'm glad it's available.
Yeah, me
Because
too.
I'm just like again, like if you like those films, like I mentioned, those Sci-Fi Channel Saturday premieres, like Bone Eater, Bone Snatcher, even Devil's Tomb, just those weird Sci-Fi Channel um, premieres. This falls right in line to it. And like I said, it would make a good double feature for some of those because it does involve him throwing bones and stuff. Um, but yeah, like I do recommend this one because again, it's been in limbo for 17 years and just now seeing the light of day. It's like that's fucking crazy. So yeah, of course I want people to see this. Um, so yeah, Ian, let's get into our rankings. And I think I went first last time. But I'll go ahead because I always talk more than uh, going into these reviews into our rankings. So, uh, of course, my number 4 is Mark of the Werebeard. As I said in that review, I just was not a fan of it. There was too much going on. It was juggling too many things. The the There was just so much haphazard things going on in that film where it was not working for me. I see the dedication that they were going for, and just like the craziness and zaniness that they wanted to go, but it just didn't work. None of it landed. The jokes and the quirkiness of everything just was all over the place. There's the truck car string, the the anime section, the video game section, the musical number, and like again, usually again, I like things that's like crazy like that. Like when we did our werewolf marathon, like Devil May Care was like my number 1 because of like it was so out there and just like put
Yeah.
together, But like that was just for some reason that was just like all over the place. Like that you had to, I had to like it in a sense. So it hit all the notes. This one, it just did not. It fell flat. I didn't like it. And so yeah, Mark of the Werebeard is my number 4. We kind of discussed it already in this review, but number 3 is Mortal Game. Because like there's like so much. Again, I didn't mind it. I had fun with it. Again, it has that comfort feel to it. But there was like the lore of the creatures. Again, there were some okay moments like the head and the cameras stuff like that. But it was just like we said earlier, it was vague of everything, and it was just a Predator clone, a cheaper version of that. It tried to do some things differently by introducing 2 creatures, the alpha and the beta, which again, they didn't look bad, but
Yeah.
it's still like you follow it up with Hell's Tomb, and like Hell's Tomb's gonna run circles around Mortal Game, and so that's the reason Hell's Tomb's number 2, and it is a strong number 2. Um,
Oh
it's
yeah.
like if we didn't have How to Kill Monsters as number 1, this would probably again Hell's Tomb would probably be number 1, but it's hard to top How to Kill Monsters.
Oh
Um,
god, yes.
but again, Hell's Tomb, we discussed it. It's a solid number 2. I can't. It's one of those like yeah, you went through hell to fight off How to Kill Monsters to get number 2, and it was a hard fought battle. It's just like one of those where like there was a lot going on. But again, there was so much in How to Kill Monsters that I had fun with, and it was just solid throughout. And that's the reason like How to Kill Monsters has to be number 1. So again, I'll go over my list. Mark of the Werebeard 4, Mortal Game 3, Hell's Tomb 2, again a strong number 2, and How to Kill Monsters is number 1. So Ian, your rankings.
Yeah. I mean, the way we've talked about it, everything, it should be obvious. It's pretty much I mean, it is the exact same as yours. Um, number 4 is definitely Werebeard. Like, I appreciate what they were trying to do with that movie. Like, I love the zaniness of it, you know. Um, but like they tried too hard, and I felt like their jokes just did not hit. Like, some of it got a chuckle out of me, but like the other, I was just like, why are you doing this? Like, let's get back to the actual story instead of like all this weird shit you're doing.
I don't mean to cut
Um,
in, but like Mark of the Werebeard is like that Simpsons meme where it has Hans Moleman getting hit in the foot, in the crotch by the football, and like only Homer laughs. It just like felt like that whole movie is like one for one specific person,
yeah, and it's just like I think if they gave it another go, I think they couldn't. They could have nailed it. Like, but I mean, How to Kill Monsters was what they were trying to go for. I
Mhm.
felt like, and uh, but yeah, Mortal. Uh, let's see. Yeah, my number 3 would definitely be Mortal Game as well. I mean, the movie was fine. There's just too many dead zones. It's like where nothing happens. They didn't give us any uh like anything to like sink our teeth into too much, but I did enjoy the story. Um like once we got into it and when it stayed on there. Um but honestly, I probably could easily flip Mortal Game with Werebeard just because some of the zaniness of it kind of was made for me. But I was sitting there thinking, I was like, no, this is definitely Mortal Game would definitely be number 3. I like the way the monsters looked. As a, I felt the opposite about Werebeard.
Yeah,
There was a couple of much better characters and like some really good moments in there
yeah,
that just really like solidified it for me because
yeah.
it's
That
not a bad movie. I didn't hate it at all. And
No, that
like,
whole house sequence with the camera, with it playing around with them inside, and then the later on in the lair with the alpha, those are like really two good moments throughout that
yeah.
film.
And I was even thinking about it. I was thinking of like if they would have went kind of like a Jurassic Park route with it, where like, they're inside the building and they're just trying to hide from them or something. Even more so, like I was like, I would have loved that. I think it was missing suspense for most of it. Um, but moving on, like Hell's Tomb, definitely, like you said, a solid 2. It gave us like it made me feel like, okay, this story felt complete. Like I wasn't sitting there just like, man, there's something missing. Like the other 2 movies where just like something wasn't just didn't sit right. The storytelling was kind of, and the other ones were kind of all over the place. And this one is just like it knew what it wanted to do and it did it. And it made sure to take the time to get us to that point. And everything that happens, especially the ending, I was just like, okay, this is a good movie that got overshadowed by other movies because this didn't have like the biggest budget. And I sometimes I always feel like movies like this just it's undeserved of getting snubbed just because of the amount of money it took to go into it.
Yeah, I mean, like I said earlier with the releases, like it's just like finding distribution. Like it's crazy that this didn't get widespread. Like a bunch of other stuff, because around this time, this is like when Lionsgate was like churning out like bottom of the barrel stuff. This
Yeah.
wasn't prime Lionsgate like nowadays. This is like shot in your backyard on an SOV camera, like Serial, Insane Clown Killer, and what's another one? The Feeding and stuff like that, where it's just like the cheapest stuff. Um, all those hood zombie movies and vampire movies, those were Lionsgate, and it's just like those got distributed by a high-end company, and this just got relegated to being forgot for 17 years, and it's just like it's crazy because this is way better than half of those. Just to see it just like pushed off to the side like that and only picked up in 3 places, and like just again it's terrible. And again, trying to find it, as we went over earlier, just like that is a game in and of itself, trying to figure out what to do, because you'd have to import it from Germany, and you wouldn't even know about the Japan version because it's a completely different title. And
I think I just had a thought. I was like, maybe they're like, what the hell is Tubi? And they watched Louisa film on there, and they're like, if they put this shit on there, okay. Like, hey, I got a movie that is better than a big chunk of this what's on here. So
exactly.
Oh man, I was like, I would be hilarious if Louisa was the reason that this movie came on there. But my number one, like we said, How to Kill Monsters, is definitely a movie I'm going to be revisiting, and probably soon, just because of just how fun of a movie it was.
Yeah. It's
like,
definitely a party type film, like if me and you got together and just watched it together, your wife is there, and if she hasn't checked it out yet, just be fun. We just have a fun time, bookend it with Book of Monsters, both of his films, and just have a fun double feature with just like zany monsters and antics, and
yeah, and it's just it was just like, honestly, I was kind of in awe the whole time I was watching it. Just like, I was like, oh my God, I'm actually like getting pumped and hyped for this movie. Like while I was watching, I was sitting here just like, I was just getting excited.
Yeah, it had a good scale for its low budget's shortcomings.
Exactly. And like they played into it.
Yeah.
Instead of just like, trying to pretend that it's something it's not. And I love that. Like the woman getting like cut in half through the prison bars, and like the twist that happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just like, oh man, like this is just from beginning to end, it was just like something was going on. And I just had so much fun with this movie. And honestly, as marathons go, this is probably one of the best marathons we've had in a while.
Yeah, I mean, we had to really grind our teeth with Werebeard, but it's still, again, it had things to it. It was like weird to see, like, wow, they're really, we're going there. It's just like one of those where you're just kind of sitting there, head tilted sideways, like, all right, because it was always interesting to see where it was leading with Werebeard, but it's just like, and so haphazardly put together, where it's just like, that's not the strongest of the marathon, and it's just like, again, they had fun with it. I get that, but it's just, like I said, it was playing one, like a vagrant or a guitar player in a subway. It's playing, but you're not going to have that many people really interested to stand there and watch you. Maybe one or two. give you a
Yeah.
dollar here and there, but they're just gonna walk on by. That's what Werebeard felt like.
Yeah, I mean, so I mean, I've definitely could see that if somebody was like, "No, I love this movie," and I'm like, I can kind of see that,
Yeah,
like, and like I didn't hate myself after watching it, like I've done with like you brought up earlier, Three Blind Mice, and movies like that where it's just, and I feel like if we've definitely seen worse, and I was like, they tried to do something, at least they tried,
yeah,
and but there's definitely quirkier movies out there that do what they wanted to do better.
yeah.
I mean, like, what was that? That
Jack
short on
versus
YouTube.
Lanterns. Remember Jack versus Lanterns?
Oh my god.
Like that was
I
like the
try
same
not to.
thing almost. I know, but that one was pretty bad. It was like the same sort of, you know, audacity, like all that crazy zany stuff,
Yeah.
and just like this, the scale that it's trying to do when it's just supposed to be a guy fighting a jack-o'-lantern monster,
Yeah.
and like they're doing all this stuff about secret things, and then it's just like, and another one, Wendigo. You know, Wendigo was like so fucking out there and crazy, and like, you have fucking Hitler doing like Bigfoot, not Bigfoot, but like King Kong, and it's like going up all that crazy zany stuff. The Wrath of Human Garbage, and it's like
Yeah.
that was like, again, just like how that one was so outlandish, but like it was fun. Because of everything that went on in the film, and like
Yeah.
that was sort of like the same quirking aspect nature of where Werebeard is, but like there's just like so much zaniness in like Wendigo Wrath on Human Garbage, where it's just like, yeah, you're gonna give the edge to Wendigo.
Yeah. I mean, I was getting like I was saying, that YouTube short, Kung Fury,
Yeah,
like that shit was insane and better. But, like I feel like if they were to go back and do it and just, I don't know, ask somebody, "Hey, is this funny?" And like the jokes were there. They just needed to the delivery was off, and uh just I don't know, some of them just needed to be tweaked.
yeah,
Like, I mean, I didn't care too much about how the werebeard looked. It wasn't great, but at the same time, like, it doesn't need to be if it's being played into. I felt like that was another thing. Like, they had jokes and stuff that they could have done. They just didn't play into a lot of it because they
yeah,
wanted to do something out there and just random.
yeah.
Um, and I
Like I
felt
said,
like that it hurt the film itself.
yeah, like we said in our initial review, it tried too hard, and just like it didn't work, in my opinion. Um,
Yeah.
and like I said, like again, like as you mentioned, like there's probably an audience for it that like, yeah, this is fun. Like again, we appreciate the opinion, but again, it's just like we said, it just wasn't our cup of tea this time around. And usually
Yeah.
again, like I said, go back and go to our Devil May Care review or the ranking system of that werewolf marathon. Like again, like something like that shouldn't have been number one, but it was so messy where it had to be, because again, I
Yeah.
like stuff like that, but like Werebeard, just like it just didn't land like a good mess film should do. And it's just like, I know a good mess film, and like that was not it. And again, I appreciate again the what they were trying to do, but again, I don't want to hark too much on Werebeard. We kind of did that in our initial review, and
I know.
but nonetheless, I think that, as you said, it was a solid marathon. We got, again, who would have thought that a 17-year-old film would have been discovered? It's like truly a film about archaeologists discovering an ancient bone box and then here we are doing it, like discovering this relic 17 years later. And it's just like, it's crazy, how things, sort of fall in place when we do these reviews out of nowhere. And
Yeah.
again, I
A
enjoyed this
boneyard for a
marathon, and
boneyard.
again, exactly, boneyard for a bone box. But yeah, I think it was a solid marathon. Again, you can go back and listen to our initial reviews. Again, we're just kind of cleaning up things here with our rankings, as we usually do. We just kind of go back and forth and just discuss the films in totality, to sum up the marathon. And again, I'm always interested to see where the next show leads us. And again, when we do these marathons, we never know. Again, we pick out titles, and again, somehow they kind of just fall in line with each other out of nowhere. And it's always cool to see that when you have really no plan besides titles and movies you want to discuss, and just see how things fall into place. And it's always cool to see that. But
Yeah.
Ian, I'm going to call that a show.
All right.
And it's always great talking with you, and especially this marathon. I think we really hit it strong there with a lot of stuff, and I think it was a good strong marathon. And if you missed the previous episodes, check out those reviews, where we go more in depth. And we will continue on. Again, we don't know what the future holds yet for our next show. It's always up in the air. But of course, you can stay tuned on our Facebook page at horrornightoasis. Our Instagram is horrornightoasis. I keep everything updated and in check. So if you want to keep in contact with what the show's doing, everything is in the description below. So Ian, as always, it's great talking with you, my friend. And we will see you.
Likewise.
Yeah, we will see everyone next time on Horror Night Oasis.
Good night.